Good morning, Stampers. Welcome to a Friday Live. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Sherwood Park, Alberta, Canada. And every Friday, or most Fridays, I guess, I come live to you at 11 a.m. Mountain Time for a fun little crafty project. So welcome to today's Facebook Live. Today we will be crafting with the Special Someone stamp set from the January to June mini catalog and the coordinating special day dies. And these are available while supplies last, and the stamp set is available until the catalog is done in June, the beginning of June. All right, so I'm just gonna give it a minute here so that a few more people can log in. And I will share with you the details of my current class in the mail. It is featuring this stamp set, actually the stamp set and the dies. So right now, if you purchase this stamp set and these dies, using this class host code, you will get the pieces to make 6 cards, 2 each of 3 different designs, and an adorable little tea pouch using this set. And so the way it works is you just visit my online store, you place an order, as long as the order is, let's see here, as long as your order totals, and I didn't jot down the total, $61. As long as it totals $61 or more, then, and you've used this class host code, then you'll get the supplies to create this project. So, I mean, you will need these supplies to create the projects, but if you already own them, then you can order whatever it is that you want as long as the order totals $61 or more, and you use that class host code. And then I will pop the supplies to make those 6 cards and that little tea pouch in the mail for you for free. Unless you're local to me, then you can always just let me know that you want to participate and we can work out the details then. All right. Let's see here. Mary Liz says, she's been trying to convince herself that she doesn't need this set. Well, wait till you see what we create today. It's pretty cute. Hey, Kim. Good morning, Kristen. All right. Okay, so we are going to go ahead and get started. Like I said, we're going to use the Special Someone stamp set and the Special Day dies, coordinating dies. We're going to need those. Let me set this out of the way. The other thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the sponge sprayer again. For those of you who are on my VIP page, on Tuesday I used the sponge sprayer and made a card using the little ladybug stamp set. Today we're going to use it, and we're going to use some masks from the annual catalog, this cute little cloud one. Now this is from the Pattern Party masks. It's a set of 4 masks from the annual catalog. You get the clouds. I move this out of the way. You get some bricks, you get some of these little diamond shapes, and then there's another one that's like a mandala, which mine actually ripped and I threw it in the garbage. So I don't have that one anymore, but it's a really, really pretty mandala. All right, so we're gonna start with our sponging. We're going to use Pool Party. So I've got my Pool Party ink pad here, my sponge sprayer, and I'm going to pull in a piece of white cardstock. This white cardstock measures 3 3/4 by 5. And let's move this out of the way. We're going to use just a little bit of Dotto, which is a temporary adhesive. This is something, it's by Herma. It's something that Stampin' Up! Carried years and years and years ago, and I still have it. We haven't carried it in years. Your local craft store or scrapbook store may carry it, or you might be able to still get it on Amazon. But there's other temporary adhesives that you can get out there. And the other thing that you can do is you can just put a tiny little bit of snail on there, and you just need something to hold it in place so it doesn't move around. Okay, so then I find it easier to work this way. So I'm going to rotate it a little bit. I'm going to position my clouds. Let's see. Let's do it like, okay, I'm happy with that. Okay, so then I will make sure that my stencil doesn't move, but I'm going to ink my sponge brayer. And so for those of you, hey Mom, Anne-Marie, welcome. So for those of you who haven't used a sponge brayer before, this comes with 2 handles and 4 of these little sponges, and you can clean them. So after I use them in one color, I just take them over and run them through some warm water, squeeze it out, and let it stand to dry. And what you're going to do, let's see here. Oh, Mary Liz says she just uses a loop of washi tape for the back to hold her cardstock in place, and that works perfectly as well. As a matter of fact, now that you mention that, I am actually going to use a little bit of washi tape to hold my stencil in place. If I can find the end. Let's try another roll. Then I don't have to worry about it moving. So I'll just use a little bit up here to hold the stencil in place. Washi tape is great for so many things. Okay, there we go. Now I don't have to worry about that moving. So my sponge brayer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to ink it up with my ink pad, and I'm not going to go back and forth like this because then I'm only inking a portion of this sponge brayer. So I want to pick it up and make sure that the entire wheel is getting evenly inked. And then I'm going to start off of my cardstock, and I'm going to move my way down the cardstock. You don't want to just keep going in one direction or in one area, because then you'll find that you might end up with clouds that have a harsh line in them, through them, okay? So again, I'm starting off of my cardstock and going back and forth. Good morning, Kristen. And you can keep doing this until it's as dark as you want. And because this is a lighter color, you can see a little bit of color in there, but not a ton. But I know that once I lift it up, see how those clouds pop? So that's exactly what I'm looking for. So now I'm gonna set that aside. We're gonna do one more piece that I want to sponge. You know that on my Facebook Lives, I like to decorate my envelope, share different ideas on how to dress up your envelopes. So what you wanna do is, or what I'm going to do, is I'm going to sponge the cloud background just on the envelope flap. So I'm gonna close it like this, but I'm gonna slide a piece of scrap paper underneath, and then I will put my stencil back on. Trying to make sure that it's relatively straight. Okay, that looks good. I'll just put that tape down, and then I will do exactly the same thing that I just did. I'm just gonna ink up my sponge brayer. That looks quite good. The other thing is your clouds don't need to be consistently inked all the way across, because clouds are not always the same color. So you can see that some are a little bit darker, some are a little bit lighter, and look at that. That's such a quick and easy way to dress up your envelope. All right, so I love our masks. There's lots of things that you can do with them. Okay, so we're gonna get that out of the way and then move on to the next step here. Okay, so now what I've got is I've got a piece of Granny Apple Green cardstock that measures 5.5 inches in length, and it doesn't matter how wide it is, but from the Special Day dies, so from these dies, we're going to take this grass image. I don't know, I've got a thing about grass dies. I just love them. You can add so much with these dies. So I'm gonna pull in my Big Shot. We're gonna use the Big Shot a lot today. Slide this into frame so you guys can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to put the grass so that it's, I don't know, that's probably what, 1/2 inch from the bottom. And then I'll run that through. And I'm actually gonna run this through 2 times. Good morning, Marilyn. We're using the Special Day dies today, or Special Someone dies, or stamp set today. and the coordinating dies. So there is my grass. There's one piece of grass, but I'm gonna run it through again. And this time, oh, let me move it over so you guys can see. This time I'm gonna do it a little bit closer. So this time it's about 1/4 of an inch from the edge. And I'll run it through. I'm not overly concerned with it being too straight, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, so now we've got our 2 grass pieces. We don't need that anymore. Move this out of the way. We'll be bringing that back shortly. Okay. So now I'm gonna bring back the piece that I just added my clouds to, and I'm going to add this to the bottom. And you can see that it's a little longer, and you'll see why I chose to cut it a little bit longer here in just a second. Okay, so I'm lining this right up with the bottom of my Whisper White cardstock that has my clouds on it. And then I'll trim the end off. Okay, and now if you look closely, you can see that it's at a little bit of an angle, but that's completely fine because maybe this ground is hilly, right? So it doesn't matter. Okay, and then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to use some mini dimensionals, and I'm going to put this thinner layer on top, and that gives the card some depth. And what I want to not do is, remember for this one when I stuck it down, I lined it right up with the edge. I don't want these patterns to be exactly in the same spot. I want it to be staggered. So this one I will likely put like this with a little bit of overhang on either side and then trim it off, because then it looks like it's a different piece that you've cut and not necessarily the same piece. Hopefully that makes sense. So I'm just going to add a few dimensionals along the bottom here, right up with the edge of the cardstock. I'll peel off that backing. And then I'm gonna add my Granny Apple Green over top and trim this off. And if it's not perfectly even at the bottom, like for the sample that I had made, my piece was just a bit too wide, so I just let it hang off the edge and then I just trimmed the excess off the bottom. So that gives it some dimension. So you've got, you know, some of the grass that's closer to you and then some further back. All right, now next step, we are going to stamp our little critter. So, and we're gonna do the raccoon for this one. So I'm gonna use my Stamparatus. So for those of you who may not be familiar with the Stamparatus, this is a stamp positioning tool. And it allows you to stamp, well, it allows you to do several things. First of all, it allows you, if something's not well inked, you can stamp it multiple times in exactly the same spot. When you do 2-step, it allows you to line up your images nicely, and you'll see how I do that in a minute. There's lots of details on lots of tricks and things that you can do with this. I've actually got a few videos on my YouTube channel if you check that out. I know that there's at least 3 on there that show you different things that you can do with the Stamparatus and that go over some of the details on how it works. So I'm not going to go into great detail today, but what I'm going to do is I am going to stamp this, well, it's this guy here, this little raccoon, which is on here. I'm going to stamp him using Early Espresso ink, and you saw that I put a stamp case underneath here. I find it easier to ink my stamps if this plate is straight, so it's flat across. Otherwise, if I don't have this, then this is at an angle, and I find I get ink all over the spine, or all over the hinge, and all over my plate. So it helps having a stamp case underneath so that it's flush, okay? The other thing is I don't ink like this, I'll ink like this so that I don't get ink on there. I mean, if you do, it's not a big deal. You just take your chamois and you wipe it off, or a baby wipe, and just wipe it off, Okay, so I'm just going to, I'm not pushing hard. I'm just tapping the ink pad onto that cute little raccoon. I'm going to close it, apply a little bit of pressure. Oh, look. See, and I did that on purpose. I didn't push too hard. See how it didn't work out there? So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna re-ink. It was probably well inked. It was probably just that I didn't push in the middle. So I'm going to just re-ink that. And this time, I'll push a little harder. And now I've got a perfect image. Okay? All right, so now I'm gonna give this a wipe. So this is just my chamois. I'm just gonna use that to wipe it. I have a little cloth that I normally use, but I couldn't find it before my video, so I'll just use this. Give that a little wipe. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna rotate this plate. So the Stamparatus comes with 2 of these plates, and so that gives you 4 surfaces. You just put this vertical, hold this up so it's vertical, and then rotate it around. And then there's another one that goes in along the top, okay? So now I've got this solid image, which is this guy right here. And we are going to stamp that. Now let me show you, I'll take this off. I know that it lines up perfectly, but I'll take it off so I can show you what you do. So this image, because it's photopolymer, you can see through it to line it up just perfectly. So I'm looking at the outside edges, I'm looking at the details around his face, I'm looking at where the eyes are, and that looks pretty good to me. So then I will just put that down, that will pick that up, and then I'm going to use a lighter shade. I'm going to use some crumb cake, and again, just ink it up the same way. Okay, and you can see I did get some ink on that side, but it's not a problem. You'll see I won't even clean it right now. I'm just gonna go ahead and stamp it down, apply a little bit of pressure, and there we go, he's perfectly colored. Okay, so then I'll take my chamois again and clean that. So I'll wipe my mat, and then I'll wipe my stamp, and then it's good. Okay, so our little critter is stamped. We can move this out of the way. Okay, now we need to do a couple more things. I've got the rest of my stamps on. Okay, rest of my stamps on blocks. I'm gonna bring in actually I'm gonna do it on another scrap just in case there's not enough room. So I'm gonna use some early espresso again, and I'm going to stamp for a very special someone. I love how clean and crisp that font is. And then there's a little speech bubble in here, so that's gonna cut that out. This die is going to cut this out, and we might as well finish the rest of our stamping that needs to be die cut before we go any further. Okay, so we are going to, now the colors I chose, a little bit difficult to see, so I'm hoping that this will work on camera here. I know, that's amazing how easy that works. Hey, Carol? Okay, so now I've got some crushed curry ink, and I'm gonna do some 2-step stamping, except I'm gonna do it a little bit differently this time. So I've got the inside floral image, so you can see that there's a solid image and then a detailed image. You can use them individually because that flower looks good just like that, and you can do that individually as well. You could color this in, so there's lots of different options, but we're going to use it to color. Rather than color in, we're going to stamp. But I'm going to do the detailed part first. And I have the little one here somewhere too. Let's do one at a time. Okay, and then I've got the full flower. And what I'm gonna do with this one is I'm going to ink just the floral part with that same color, that crushed curry, but then I'm gonna come in with my Mango Melody Stampin' Write marker. Now these Stampin' Write markers are different than the Stampin' Blends. You see me using Stampin' Blends all the time. This is a different marker. So they look different. It's thinner, it's round rather than rectangular, and it is a water-based marker rather than an alcohol-based marker. Okay, so this allows you to draw right on your stamps. So what I'm doing is in the center of the flower, I'm just adding a little bit of a darker image or a little bit of a darker color, and see the yellow on the, it's just really hard to see. I'm hoping that this will work. That's pretty good. Okay, so we did that one, and we're going to repeat those steps with the smaller one. I'll do that over here, and then I've got the smaller flower here, and I'm just gonna do the same thing, just add a little bit of Mango Melody in the center to give that detail. And oh my gosh, this is so hard to see. I apologize if my head's in the way. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try that one again. Let's flip it around. Let's try it this way. Let's do this first. And then stamp that detail. See, it looks pretty just like that. I'll move this up. You can leave it just like that, and I'm going to do that on the inside of the card, but for the outside of the card, I want there to be just a little bit more color. Still can't. My gosh, I picked the hardest color to work with for on camera here. Normally it's not that difficult. If you have a color that is darker, more contrast, oh, that's even worse than the first one. Okay, let's try this one more time. See, this is what stamping is like when I'm just on my own. It takes a few tries to get it just right. Okay, that's better. Okay, that's the one we're gonna use. It's still not perfect, but it's better. All right, do I have to do anything else? Okay, no, I can cut. We're gonna bring back the Big Shot. We'll do our die cutting, and then we're gonna do some more stamping. Lots of stamping today. Okay, so slide that out of the way. So we're going to line this guy up with our little raccoon, and that will cut it out. And then this guy we can line up on here if it will let us. I might have to wait on that one. And then there's some dies for the flowers. So this, where's my scissors? I'm trying this a little smaller here. Okay, so this guy cuts the stem as well, but for this particular purpose, we're just using the flower. And then there's a small one. Exactly, I'm keeping it real, Christine. Okay, so which one? This one was the best one. Oh, look at that, and I just moved this guy. Okay, we're gonna do these two for the first time, and then we'll run the other two through. Okay, there we go. Carefully put that on top, run that through. And now I've got my cute little raccoon. I've got my flower, which you can see that I've still got a stem there, but I'll trim that off later. And then let's move this over so you can see. So now I need this flower. Let's move these off to the side. And I need my special someone. So let's line this up first in the center of the speech bubble. looks pretty good. And then the flower, this is gonna be a little, I find the smaller the die, the more it pulls. Okay. Let's see. So I'm just gonna move my cardstock to where the die is pulling, and that should work. I think that looks good. Carefully put my top plate on, feed it through. And then we are done with our die cutting. So we can move this guy out of the way, take all our pieces off, do a bit more stamping, and then we can assemble. Okay, so I've got my one flower, my raccoon, my other flower. So this, what I'm gonna do is I'm basically just going to follow the petal and trim that off, and do the same thing for the little one. Just like that. Okay, so we've got those little pieces. We're gonna pull back what we've already created here, and I'm going to bring in the big flower again and my crushed curry ink. And again, I'm going to ink up just the top flower. I'm gonna do the same thing, and actually, nope, I don't need to do that because it's going to get covered over. And then I'm gonna take some Granny Apple Green. And again, this is my Stampin' Write marker. Ink up that stem. Give it a little huff. And then I'm going to stamp my flower, and I forgot, I don't want to do it all the way to the bottom, so I'm just taking my chamois and just wiping just that tiny little bit off the bottom. And you could do this before you do your, it probably make more sense if you did it before, but I don't always stamp logically, so I'm gonna do the same thing with the little one. Just use my Granny Apple Green on the stem. And I'm trying not to stamp over top of my grass. I just want it to be lined up right with the grass, so it looks like it's growing out of the grass. So I'll move this a little closer so you can see. So you can see the difference in the flowers. Where did my other ones go here? It makes it look like a completely different flower. So these are actually gonna go on top of that to make them pop a little bit more. So I'm just folding up the petals just a little bit. I'll use a little bit of Tombow. And that is gonna go right on top of here. So that's why I didn't add the detail to the center of those flowers, because they were gonna be covered over anyways. Okay, I'm gonna fold up the petals on this one and stick this one down as well. And then I'm going to use, these are some of our Happiness Blooms enamel dots. I'm gonna use some of these, I think these are, can't remember if they're Calypso Coral or Grapefruit. I think they're Calypso Coral. So I'm gonna use these. I'll use one of the big ones for the center of the big flower. And one of the little tiny ones for the center of the small flower. And I'm just going to give these a bit more dimension here by curling up. There we go. Okay, and then we need to tuck our little raccoon in. So for those of you who joined in a little bit late, this is the Special Someone stamp set and the coordinating dies. They're called Special Day dies. And this is my current class in the mail. So if you purchase this on from my website using the class host code, then you get the supplies mailed to you for 6 cards, 2 each of 3 different designs, and a cute little tea bag pouch. And then I email you the instructions. And if you already own this stamp set and the dies, then you can, as long as you purchase $61 or more using that host code, then I will send you the supplies for free. Okay, so now we've got our greeting, and we need to add one more thing on here. In the stamp set, there are these teeny tiny little butterflies. So we are going to add some of those. And I'm using Early Espresso ink. Look how cute those are. Look how sweet that is. All right, now let's assemble our card, and then we'll work on the inside. Okay, just add this. So this white base is 3 3/4 by 5. So I'm going to add that to a piece of Early Espresso that measures 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. And then our card base is a piece of Mango Melody cardstock that measures 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. And I don't have my little folder. I'll just fold that in half, and then add some Tombow, stick that in the center. So again, I had mentioned, I think it was on Tuesday in my VIP group, I really love to vary the thicknesses of my mats. So this one just has a 1/16 of an inch all the way around, and then this one has, I think it's more than an 1/8. It might be a 1/4 of an inch. I don't know if it's a 1/4 of an inch though, but it's a little bit bigger. All right, isn't that adorable? Okay, now we're gonna do the inside. So I wanted to dress the inside up just a little bit, and because the envelope flap was dressed up, so you can't just stamp a greeting on the inside, right? You gotta dress it up a little bit. So I'm gonna go back to these flowers, and I'm going to ink a flower with crushed curry. I'll do the stem with Granny Apple Green, and this time I will add the detail in the center of the flower. So I'm going to do the big one right here, and the little one, do exactly the same thing. Stamp it down like that, and then I'm going to use the happy birthday greeting, and again pull in my Early Espresso, and this is going to get stamped right in the center of my card base. There we go. You know what? We're gonna add one single little butterfly on there. Right here. There. Okay, and then we'll add that to the inside of our card. And then we're done. So what do you guys think of this stamp set now? Isn't it adorable? The cards that you create in the class are really, really cute too. All right, there we go. And all done with our matching envelope. All right, so thanks so much for watching, guys. I will put a full supply list in the top. If you're watching the Facebook Live replay, it'll be in the top in the description. I'll include a link to shop online and this host code and the product numbers of what you need to order. And then if you're watching on YouTube, all the information will be below. All right, so thanks so much for watching. Have a fabulous weekend, and I will see you next week. Take care, guys.